What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Hope y'all are having a wonderful, outstanding, beautiful fall day today. I'm enjoying this weather myself, I know that. Incredible. The breeze, the leaves, everything. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the subject of this video. So I want to talk about an article I just read on CNN, of all places, right? The article is titled, "A Republican Wave in the House is Still Quite Possible." So I'm going to go ahead and read this article and give you guys my thoughts, and then you guys can give me your thoughts in the comments if you feel so compelled to do so. Alright, let's get into it. The race for control of the U.S. Senate has dominated news coverage of the midterms. That's not surprising. The polls are plenty, the personalities are numerous, and we have a pretty good idea of the races that will determine which party wins the majority. Yet, it's the race for the U.S. House that may be the more interesting one. Our CNN poll last week had Democrats up by 3 points on the generic congressional ballot, within the margin of error and close to the recent average of polls, which has shown the parties about even. For reference, Republicans were ahead on the generic ballot at this point in the last two midterms when there was a Democratic president, in 2010 and 2014. If the current tie on the generic ballot holds in the vote for the House, control of the chamber would be a toss-up. Indeed, a number of people, including me, have noted the possibility of House Democrats maintaining their majority. Do we trust the polls? I don't know. But few nonpartisan analysts think that's likely. Most acknowledge that Republicans are in a good position to take back the House in this election. I'd make the argument, though, that we are underselling the potential of a big Republican night. And the potential for a GOP blowout is where we begin to look at our look at the week that was in politics. So, yes, I would actually agree with this, believe it or not. This writer, I think, has some insight here, right? So, as we've seen before in the political world, polls are not always representative of what actually happens, okay? For instance, if you look at 2016, I don't think a single poll had the president winning that election. Maybe a few here and there, maybe Trafalgar or something like that. But polls are not always indicative of the outcome of elections, right? So I think he might have a point here. I think I would agree with him. I think there's a chance of this happening. But anyways, let's keep reading. 6 months ago, a massive GOP victory in the House seemed the most likely possibility. The Republicans were doing better on the generic ballot than at any point in history so far out from the election. Since then, a combination of events, including the U.S. Supreme Court's overturning of Roe v. Wade, seemed to tip the scales toward Democrats. A look at some non-polling data and the fundamentals, however, suggests we shouldn't lose sight of the possibility of Republicans achieving a large win next month. Let's start with House race ratings. Well, actually, before I get into that, yes, I've seen people debate and say that the Roe v. Wade thing was something that would lose Republican seats. And I want to clarify right here in this video that my position is I'm not a strong Republican. To be quite honest, I don't like a lot of the Republican politicians. You know, I don't think they represent the values that they claim to represent. And same thing for Democrats. So myself, I'm more of a libertarian, I would say. A few conservative standpoints and a few liberal standpoints that are actually liberal, like freedom of speech. But yeah, I wanted to say that before I gave my opinion on this. So what I was going to say is that I do think that, yes, we could see some seats go the Democrats' way more than we expected because of the Roe v. Wade situation. But I think that in the overall theme of the election, that Republicans will probably have a pretty good night because of the basic, items here of focus, which are the economy, inflation, gas prices, etc., war with Ukraine. Like, I think they're just in a good position, and I think that's what they're saying here. But moving on, these are designations that places such as the Cook Political Report and Inside Elections give to individual district races based on a bevy of factors, including how those districts have voted in the past and internal polling data. I gathered all the final House rating data I could from 2000, specifically a number of the races that were rated as either toss-ups or leaning toward one party right before the election. It turns out these ratings, in aggregate, have done an accurate job to telling the story of House elections. When one party has more races in these two designations, it tends to do poorly. Right now, there are 23 more Democratic-held seats than Republican ones in either the toss-up or leaning category. Additionally, there are 4 Democratic seats that are rated as likely to flip the GOP. Taking into account what has been a small but fairly consistent trend of Republicans outperforming race ratings since 2000, which I was saying, Sometimes the polls are not accurate. This would translate into a GOP net gain of 26 seats next month. This would put Republicans at about 239 seats in total. Let's see. Speaking of the 94 election, Biden's approval rating, 43%, is lower than Bill Clinton's 45%. Clinton, Barack Obama, and Trump all had average approval ratings of between 43 and 45% at this point in their first terms. The parties all suffered net losses between 40 and 63 seats in the House. So there is precedent for these seats to be lost. There is precedent. And that's part of the reason I think this might happen. So keep your eye on this, keep following it, but I'm going to go ahead and read what else I think is important from this article that I was skimming over. Let's see. Election models by 538 and Jack Kersing, which are based on a bevy of variables, give Republicans about a 1/3 chance of ending up with at least 230 seats. That's still better than the chance either model gives Democrats of holding on to the House. So, this model here. So they're favored. Okay, so 538 is rating Republicans favored to win the House, 71% to win the majority, okay? And 230 seats is far more than the majority here, as we see. The minimum House seats needed to win the majority, I believe, is 225? Yes, about 225. So, final thoughts. Is this likely? I would say it is. I would say that it's likely Republicans take back the House. What are the implications from this? Well, when CNN put something out, this was on their front page today, top article, very top of the page, I think it's something to pay attention to. I think we should not take it with a grain of salt and realize that what's going on here is, it almost seems like one of those things where they're putting this storyline out just to get ahead of the game, to kind of cover the whole, like, admit we're wrong type thing, so they get out ahead of it. That's kind of what it seems like to me, but it also could be possible this guy who wrote this article has some common sense, because as we've seen before, incumbent presidents have a pretty tough time holding their houses of Congress, respectively, in the elections following that president's election. So I would say it's pretty likely for Republicans to take back the House. Some of the implications from this, that whole January 6th committee in the House going on right now would be disbanded, probably. Whether or not that's a good thing, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down below. I thought it was pretty funny when they subpoenaed Trump. We'll see if he actually shows up to that. That's something I'm definitely watching, keep my eye on. But yeah, it's interesting to see this from CNN. Like I said, I don't... CNN has not the greatest reputation in the news as far as reporting. The ratings are down. And I'm about to make a video actually about reports that Jim Acosta is heading out of CNN. So they're not doing too well. Not necessarily the most trustful source, but this speaks to me right here that I think something's going on. I think they realize what's going to happen, and it's something to keep an eye on. So, yeah. With that being said, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Really appreciate everybody tuning in. Subscribe if you want more content. Like the video. And with that being said, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.